It is a joyous day in Christian churches throughout the world. But while Christians celebrate Jesus' resurrection, many prayers will be said today for better times here. Last month's unemployment figures were up sharply in the Houston area, and analysts say they don't even take into account recent layoffs in the oil industry and companies tied to oil. Hard times are here. Nancy Holland reports our perspective story this morning. It's about too much oil and not enough jobs.
Exxon Corporation is restructuring some of its oil and gas operations and eliminating some central offices.
Declining oil prices are creating concern among financial institutions because of loans to oil-related industries.
Governor Mark White today toured the Lone Star Steel Mill and told laid-off workers there that they can blame their problems on the Reagan administration.
Without an agreement among OPEC members, the drilling rig count in the Gulf of Mexico is sure to continue its downward slide.
Fluctuating oil prices, layoffs, mergers, and reorganizations among energy companies have become a regular part of Houston's nightly newscasts. Those stories are likely to remain a staple of the news diet while companies struggle for survival in the increasingly difficult economic arena. But the energy story must be told in terms of people, those who have been laid off and those who will be. And an unemployment rate for Houston that stands at 9.6%.
And that does represent approximately 154,000 people unemployed in the Houston metropolitan area.
The effects of the turmoil in the oil and gas industry stretch far beyond the energy companies themselves. In the last few years, dozens of survey and diving companies have failed or merged.
We've seen that about 30 companies in our industry have gone out of business or merged together in the last 3 or 4 years, and currently there are 4 other companies for sale that are on the market trying to be sold that have larger parents. I think at the end of the day it'll end up being the 4 major companies that will continue in the business throughout the world.
In a business where only the majors are survivors, the biggest of these is oceaneering. It has survived, but at a human price. A price paid by workers told they no longer have jobs, and by the people who had to give them the bad news.
Well, I guess a lot goes through your mind. You probably don't sleep very well the night before because I think you know you're interfering with someone's life, with a family. Most of these people have been doing a good job. The reason they're getting laid off is through no fault of their own. They're perhaps just victims of circumstances, and you come down and have to finally decide you're doing this for the rest of the company to survive, and it has to be done.
In the boom days, a swarm of choppers left the coastline each day, bound for the offshore rigs, carrying people and supplies. Now, with the rig count at a 12-year low, there are simply too few places to fly. Pilots have been laid off, and millions of dollars worth of equipment sits idle on the ground. Some companies are reluctant to talk about the situation, but others say they just don't know what will happen. It is a business where the question of survival is answered week to week, and only the strongest of all will make it. One company executive said, if the oil companies can't predict what will happen next, how can we? But for many pilots, there is already an answer. There is virtually no hope in Houston, whether they flew offshore or ferried corporate executives.
I left and went to the helicopter convention in California, had a good vacation, came back and was unemployed.
Mike McDonald has been a pilot for 18 years. He says he'll head west to search for a job. He is not bitter, just sadly resigned.
The company was extremely good to me. I understand it's just a matter of economics. My job was not the only job that was lost, and it was not only in the aviation department, it was other departments as well. And those people likewise were as surprised as I was.
The litany of problems continues for those who make the drilling fluids and the drill bits and the oil field tools. No one is untouched, and still the heads of the corporations know there are more layoffs to come.
It hurts me very much personally because I'm laying off people that I've known for the 40 years that I worked for the Hughes Tool Company, and that's very difficult to do. Your friends and neighbors, you know, it's something that I don't think you can find any pleasure in at all.
And it filters down. The people who would have bought the new cars and the furniture and the houses are without jobs or worried enough to be conservative. One energy analyst says the storms in Houston's business community are far from over. As a matter of fact, he says the worst is yet to come. Energy analyst Kep Keplinger has some frightening predictions for Houston and all of Texas. The administration and Congress hate our guts, he says, and there will be no help from Washington. He sees another major oil crisis by 1990 at the latest, and to put it directly, a major depression for Texas.
We haven't even begun to see the downside of this, that we're going to see thousands of companies go out of business, go belly up, into Chapter 11, merge, whatever this year. That
and you're not just talking oil companies, you're talking all of the service-related companies?
Yeah, and especially service. We think that there'll be at least 50% of the service companies gone by this time next year.
50%?
Yeah, of the capacity. And probably 30% of all the oil companies will be gone.